What is going on, YouTube? Lamont at large. Today we are at the Forest Lawn West Cemetery here in Charlotte, North Carolina. There is several conditions that I really love when I do these videos. Number one, I love when it's windy. Number two, I love the sounds of sirens in the background for at least 20 minutes. That really makes the video that much more special. And one other thing that I really love are helicopters buzzing over my head for the last 30 minutes looking for some nefarious criminal creep that is currently eluding our law enforcement officers of the great city of Charlotte, North Carolina. However, we are going to continue. I want to tell you about a very interesting yet tragic story of Daisy and Violet Hilton. They were conjoined Siamese twins. They were quite well known back in the teens, 20s, and 30s. So let's tell quickly about this story. I am not a college professor. This is no lecture. February 5th, 1908. Violet and Daisy Hilton are born in Brighton, England, to a barmaid who was unwed. So you're a single mom and you have conjoined twins in 1908 and you're a barmaid. Things are not looking up for you. So she worked for a woman by the name of Mary Hilton. She owned the bar where she worked at, and she said, you know, listen, just had these twins, they're conjoined. The doctors are telling me it would be quite difficult, very risky. If I considered surgery to separate them, one or both might die. So Mary Hilton, the ever-shrewd businesswoman that she was, basically told her this. She said, listen, how about I throw you a couple bucks? You kind of turn around and hightail it out of here, and I'll take care of your kids. I'll provide them with a good life. So Kate Skinner, who was the mother of Daisy and Violet, she said, sure, why not? I'll sell my kids. Haven't any of you guys ever wanted to sell your kids when they get on your nerves? Well, this is kind of a different scenario here. So she basically sells her kids to Mary Hilton, and then, of course, the sisters, they take the Hilton name. And this woman was not a person that you want buying your children. She was very crafty in purchasing these children from Kate, because she put them through, in my opinion, somewhat of a hellish existence. So the sisters take her name and she starts making money off of them by charging people in her bar 2 pence to see the conjoined twins, because of course back in those days it was kind of an oddity to see that. They were actually the first Siamese twins to be born in England that lived past a few weeks. So for 2 pence, you could see the sisters, you can check them out. If you gave another pence, you get to like prod them, poke them, and you get to see where they were conjoined at. They were conjoined at the hip. Later on, as they started getting more popular, she takes the money that she's making off of these girls and buys another bar, moves them to that bar, and is charging people more money to see the Hilton twins, or some would call it the Siamese twins, or the Brighton twins, whatever name they wanted to use. So later on, she takes them out on tour, if you will. So they start touring different parts of England. They're going on tours through Germany. They even went to Australia. They were quite popular. And eventually, they made their way to the United States of America. And boy, they were making a lot of money. But the money wasn't going in their pocket. It was going in Mary's pocket. So while they were in Birmingham, Alabama, Mary Hilton passes away. And so her children kind of take over, I guess you want to say, the family business. Her daughter, Edith Myers, who was married to a guy named Myers, cool name if I don't say so myself, took over the reins of basically their enslavement, if you will. And these people, if you thought Mary Hilton was bad, these people were worse. They made these kids practice playing instruments. If they would mess up on their lessons, they would be beaten with the buckle end of a belt. I felt that once or twice in my life. Yeesh. They were made to perform, going out through their teens. Finally, they were doing a show with a man by the name of Harry Houdini. And Houdini said, hey, listen, ladies, this ain't right. What you need to do is you need to sue Edith and that weirdo Myers. I mean, what kind of name is Myers? Yeah, I don't even trust this guy. This guy has a first name and last name. Come on. So eventually they took him to court. They, I guess you could say, won their emancipation, and they won a settlement for $100,000. That's a lot of money. That's about $1.5 million in today's dollars. And with today's economy, I would say it's even more. So by the time they get away from the weirdo Myers, they start performing for themselves. They started doing vaudeville shows, whereas before they were made to dress alike and do these, play the saxophone and the violin, which, by the way, they were pretty good musicians. They started dressing differently. By now, they're women. This is in their 30s now. However, just as they got into doing the vaudeville shows, because they had performed with famous people, one of them being Bob Hope, they tap danced together. But by the time they started with the vaudeville thing, vaudeville was kind of dying out. It was kind of, everything, it gets popular for a while. Everyone's crazy about it. And then, hey, I'd rather go watch a movie. Movies started getting popular, making more and more stars. And vaudeville's, it's taking the back roads. So they're trying to make a living. They've never held regular jobs before. So they start coming up with ideas to sell themselves. So they get a manager, and the manager, he gets them a couple gigs. They were in a couple movies. One of them was called Freaks. That was how the thing was back in the days. If you were born odd or born different, they call you a freak or what have you. And then they did like a kind of a self-exploitation movie. It's called Chained for Life in 1951. And then, the movie offers started dying out, and they weren't really hearing from many people. And then they had to, make money. Now they're in their 40s. And hey, we don't know any better. I mean, who's going to hire them? That's just the way things were back in those days. So they started doing being hired for bar openings, restaurant openings, car dealership, just a sale, come see the Brighton twins or what have you. Here's a fun fact, a little side note. Violet had been wanting to get married. She, at the time, was dating a man by the name of Maurice Lambert. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. And what I'm thinking is, what is Maurice Lambert thinking? Hey, I don't know. Not my thing. But they tried to go to almost 24 states to get a marriage license to get married. And for whatever reason, these stupid states, they're looking at these people and they're not granting them the marriage license because they're conjoined twins and who knows whatever kind of crap they're thinking. So they tried many, many times to get married. They couldn't get married. And next, she starts dating a man named James Moore. Well, here's the problem with James Moore. Well, James Moore, he's light in the loafers, I guess is what they would call it back in those days. He's gay. Not the term gay meaning happy, gay meaning I enjoyed the company of other men, if you know what I mean. So she gets the hint that this guy is on to a different kind of feeling, if you will. And of course, the other girl, Daisy, She starts dating a guy. He's a pretty, I wouldn't call him a famous dancer, but he was somewhat well known back in the days. Buddy Sawyer. So they get married in 1941. But there's a problem. You see, Buddy Sawyer, well, let's just say that he would rather hang out with James than anybody else. So that didn't work out too long. So maybe Buddy and James, maybe they had a good life together. Who knows? And as time goes on, the opportunities to make money are totally drying up. And now they're just relegated to whatever they can do to make a dime, literally. So in 1961, the twins, they came to Charlotte, North Carolina. I believe they were at a drive-in or something along those lines. So they come to a drive-in. I don't know why. They were hired, and whoever their manager was, the scumbag that he was and is, he stole all their money and fled town. Now you have Daisy and Violet Hilton, which this is their grave right here. They're buried along with Troy Thompson. I'm not sure who that is in relation to, but beloved Siamese twins forever. And so these ladies, Daisy and Violet, now they're broke. It's 1961. The manager fled with their money, literally. And this was when I was reading the story. This is how it hurt my heart. So they're going around from business to business. They're saying, "Hey, we need a job." No one's hiring them. Nobody, the Siamese twin thing is no longer, it's no longer a freak show or an attraction. Now it's just like, okay, well, people feel bad for you, what have you. So they go into a grocery store. It's called Park and Shop, and it was owned by a man named Charles Reed. And they say, "Hey, Mr. Reed, we need a job. We're broke. Got nowhere to stay." I mean, these ladies were destitute. They were very, very destitute. And, out of the kindness of his heart, he's like, "All right, listen, I'll give you a job, but I'm only going to pay you for one person. I'm not going to pay you for two people." I know that's really janky, really bad on his end, but they didn't have a choice. They said, "Okay, fine." So he got them a place to stay, and as they worked for him, he eventually just paid them, for two people. And that was very kind of him because, I don't know what they could have done at that store. I wasn't sure what their job was. Anyways, and they stayed with that man and that market for about the next 7 or 8 years. And then January 4th, 1969, Daisy and Violet, they hadn't been to work in about 3 days. So Mr. Reed, he calls the authorities. They're like, "Yeah, this isn't like them. They don't just miss work. They're very faithful employees." The local law enforcement, they go to the house where Daisy and Violet live, and they discover them both dead. So they come, the coroner comes, gets their bodies, take it to the coroner's office. They do an autopsy and come to find out that they had died of the flu. Now, get this. During the autopsy, because we, medical, modern technology, we kind of know when somebody has died, and come to find out that, they didn't necessarily die together. Daisy had died first, and they believed that she had been dead for 3 days while Violet was still alive. Can you imagine? Being with your sister literally joined at the hip, which is, I believe this is where the term might have come from, but don't quote me. It could have also came from Chang and Ang Bunker. But can you imagine being stuck next with your Siamese twin dead for days on end? I mean, oh my God. And during the autopsy, I believe it was during then, because now that you're doing the autopsy, you're kind of looking to see, well, how were they conjoined? And they didn't share any vital organs. The only thing they shared was the same circulatory system, where their blood would go. Of course, they shared blood. So, in hindsight, and this is, another tragic aspect of this case is that more than likely, even when they were born in 1908, surgery could have been done where if they would have been, I guess you could say disconnected, if you will, that both of them would have been fine. I mean, minus like the wound part of it, because maybe we weren't really that apt at fixing wounds and what have you. Maybe they would have bled out. I have no idea. But, when I read this story, I said, geez, I got to come here. And I've been knowing about this for about the last, I want to say, 4 or 5 months. So a tragic, interesting, yet tragic story of these girls. And, rest in peace to Daisy and Violet Hilton and Troy Thompson as well. It says Vietnam. I don't know if that's where he passed, but and I don't know the relation to them, but they share a stone. So a tragic tale of events, and but rest in peace to both Daisy and Violet Hilton and Mr. Thompson. Thank you for your service, sir. Okay, guys, I'm out of here. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that I explained it as quickly as I possibly could. I still feel a little bit weird about making really ultra long videos. I know I keep constantly saying that, but I keep constantly doing it. But just a very, very interesting grave, and these are some of my favorite videos. It's just a just the way people lived back in those days. You know what I mean? A little bit of insight into how things were back in the olden days, if you will. Guys, make sure you hit that notification bell, let you know when I upload a video. Guys, don't forget about my other channel, Fascinating Graveyard. That's where more of the famous graves go on, if you guys want to give me a try. And also, guys, TikTok. I know some of you guys don't like TikTok, but I do put up TikTok videos at least 2 or 3 a week. Might want to give it a try. You might like it. Live, but not live. Still alive by the grace of God.